They laughed at my crazy idea, right there at the dinner table, my own children. They called it a retirement fantasy, said I was too old to start anything new. But as they laughed, I made a quiet promise to myself. One day, they'd live off the very idea they mocked. And when that day came, they wouldn't be laughing anymore. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The hushed room, typically filled with the gentle sounds of a family dinner, felt suddenly oppressive. I just laid bare my soul, passionately detailing my vision for modular, eco-friendly housing to James, Emily, and their partners. Each word of my pitch seemed to drain the warmth from the air, replacing it with an icy stillness. Then the dam broke. James, my eldest, let out an incredulous snort that quickly escalated into outright laughter. "Dad, seriously," he managed, wiping tears of amusement from his eyes. "You're 70. This isn't innovation, it's a fantasy." Emily, always the practical one, chimed in. "It's simply not feasible, Father. Nobody's investing in sustainable living at this scale." Clara, my wife, offered one of her familiar non-committal smiles, a silent affirmation of their judgment. Their collective mockery struck me like a physical blow, heavy and suffocating. The silence that followed was thick with their condescension. My hand, trembling, knocked my water glass, sending a cold spray across the immaculate white tablecloth. "I'll see," I whispered, the words a raw promise to myself, a silent vow against their disbelief. I pushed back my chair and left, the echo of their laughter a bitter, lingering taste. For months, I became a ghost. Phone calls from my children were unanswered, my usual seat at Sunday dinner conspicuously empty. They assumed I was sulking, a childish reaction to their tough love. But I wasn't sulking. I was building. My days were spent in a dilapidated barn I'd bought on the outskirts of town, now transformed into a makeshift workshop. Blueprints papered the walls like wallpaper, prototypes of modular units taking shape beneath my aged but capable hands. My frame thinned, but a fire had been rekindled in my eyes. An email from James arrived, curt and dismissive, urging me to get rid of that old junk and focus on my health, hinting at future medical expenses. I deleted it without a second thought. Later, scrolling through local news, I saw a headline. Mr. Harrison, a prominent developer and James's boss, was pushing a new, environmentally dubious housing project. A flicker of something cold and sharp ignited within me. Rejection from banks had become a familiar sting. My crazy idea, they'd called it, shaking their heads at a man my age daring to dream. I found myself at a local community center's Inventors Showcase, surrounded by earnest hobbyists and their quirky gadgets. My spirit was at its lowest ebb. Then, a voice. "Mr. Peterson?" A young woman, bright-eyed and radiating intelligence, stood before me. Her name was Chloe. She was an architect, she explained, and had followed my earlier, less successful ventures with interest. She saw not just a concept, but a revolution in my modular housing design. Her critique was sharp, her suggestions insightful, addressing flaws I hadn't even realized existed. "This isn't just an idea," she declared, her conviction unwavering. "This could change everything." She offered her small inheritance not as a charity, but as an investment in a full partnership. Her unwavering belief was the lifeline I desperately needed. Chloe and I toiled relentlessly, fueled by instant coffee and a shared vision. We refined every detail, perfecting the pitch until it hummed with persuasive power. Finally, we secured a meeting with a respected venture capitalist, Mr. Albright, known for his commitment to sustainable innovation. The presentation flowed flawlessly. Mr. Albright's nods were encouraging, his questions incisive.
Leaving his office, we nearly collided with James, who was also there for a meeting concerning Mr. Harrison's new development. He barely acknowledged me, his smirk a dismissive flick of the wrist. The next morning, Mr. Albright's assistant called, regretfully informing us they were backing another project, a very similar modular housing concept, fast-tracked due to an unforeseen opportunity. My heart sank, a cold premonition settling in my gut. That evening, the local news ran a segment, Mr. Harrison proudly announcing his innovative sustainable housing initiative, with designs eerily mirroring my own. And there beside him was James, beaming.
Rage, cold and pure, propelled me to a lawyer's office. Ms. Davies, a formidable woman with an even sharper legal mind, listened intently. The path to legal recourse, she warned, was fraught with difficulty. James, it turned out, had seen my early unpatented sketches, dismissing them as Dad's doodles, but clearly filing them away. Mr. Harrison, a predator in a tailored suit, had weaponized that information. But Miss Davies then uncovered a forgotten detail. Years ago, in a moment of playful idealism, I had inserted a clause into my children's trust funds. It stipulated that if I ever successfully launched a venture that revolutionized a specific industry, a phrase they'd all scoffed at when signing, I would receive a percentage of their future earnings. It was a seemingly innocuous detail, now a legal lever, powerful and ethically complex, that could upend their carefully constructed lives. Despair threatened to consume me. The legal battle seemed insurmountable, the cost astronomical. I was ready to concede defeat. But Chloe, my determined partner, wouldn't allow it. "Not yet, Mr. Peterson," she said, her eyes flashing. She revealed her secret weapon, meticulous documentation of our entire design process, time-stamped emails, CAD files, voice recordings of our brainstorming sessions, even a specific unique design element that was undeniably mine, a signature I developed decades ago, now brazenly stolen by Harrison's team. She proposed a different strategy, go public. Not a lawsuit, but a social media campaign exposing Harrison's blatant plagiarism. The local community, already wary of Harrison's past developments, quickly rallied around my story. James, once a respected figure, became the target of online scorn for his perceived complicity and callous disrespect towards his own father. The online storm intensified, a deluge of anger directed at Harrison and implicitly at James. Clara, usually so composed, cornered me, her face pale. Tears welled in her eyes as she confessed. James, she admitted, had shown her some of my early plans, laughing them off. She hadn't thought anything of it then, hadn't connected the dots until the news reports, the online accusations. She admitted her own complicity, her long-held guilt for not standing up for me, for allowing our children's dismissive attitudes to silence her own belief in my talent. It was a revelation that brought a bittersweet ache to my heart. I hadn't been entirely alone in my dreams. Clara offered to speak out publicly, a move that would undoubtedly fracture the family further, but a crucial step towards vindication. Just as the tide of public opinion turned definitively in my favor, an unexpected email appeared in my inbox. It was from Mr. Zhao, a name that sent a jolt through me. Decades ago, he had been a quiet, ambitious apprentice in my modest carpentry business, a young man I'd mentored before he vanished into the tech world. Now, he was a reclusive, incredibly wealthy tech mogul living abroad. He had seen the news reports, recognized my unique design signature in the stolen plans, and reached out. Not just with words of support, but with a substantial investment offer, contingent on me reclaiming my intellectual property and building my original vision.
This sudden influx of capital was more than just money. It was validation, a powerful shift in the game that instantly put Harrison on the defensive.
Armed with Mr. Zhao's investment and an army of public supporters, I dispatched a formal cease and desist letter to Harrison. It demanded full credit, substantial compensation, and a public retraction. Crucially, it highlighted the revolutionizing clause in my children's trust funds, detailing the devastating financial implications for James and Emily if Harrison's project continued to be perceived as a stolen version of my now heralded revolutionary idea. Emily, consumed by fear for her husband's career and her own family's financial stability, came to me. Her usual composure shattered, replaced by desperation. "Father," she pleaded, tears streaming, "I was wrong. James, he pushed us. Please, I'll help you expose Harrison. Anything, if you'll just reconsider the trust fund." The ice around my heart thawed slightly, a flicker of paternal concern warring with resolute justice. James, now facing public ostracization and the incandescent fury of Mr. Harrison, was cornered. Harrison, however, was a shark, not one to simply roll over. He presented a counteroffer, a substantial sum of money, public credit for my ideas, and a percentage of the profits from his now stalled development. The catch? I had to publicly endorse his project and drop all charges. It was a tempting proposition, a quick, clean victory. The money would secure my future beyond measure. I looked at Chloe, then at the half-finished model of my true vision in the workshop. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about integrity, about the dream they had mocked. A compromise with Harrison would be a betrayal of that dream. My resolve hardened.
Chloe and I, with Miss Davies' strategic guidance, decisively rejected Harrison's offer. Instead, we unleashed a carefully orchestrated media blitz. We released Chloe's meticulously documented evidence, time-stamped emails, early prototypes, and even audio recordings of our development process to every news outlet, local and national. Clara, my wife, stepped forward, her quiet dignity lending immense power to her tearful testimony. The narrative of the elderly inventor, betrayed by his own son and shamelessly robbed by a corporate giant, ignited a firestorm of public empathy. An anonymous leak, perhaps Clara or a guilt-ridden relative, sent the original dinner table video viral. It was undeniable proof of their scorn, amplifying the injustice 100-fold. The relentless media pressure and widespread public outrage proved catastrophic for Harrison's project. Investors, spooked by the scandal, pulled their funding. Partners scrambled to distance themselves. Local authorities, prompted by the intense scrutiny, launched a full-scale investigation into Harrison's checkered business history. His empire, built on a foundation of shady dealings, began to crumble. James, the ambitious son, was publicly fired and blacklisted from the industry, his reputation irrevocably destroyed. He called me, not to apologize, but to spew bitter accusations, blaming me for ruining his life. I listened calmly, my voice steady as I reminded him, "You started this, James," that night at the dinner table. There was no satisfaction in his despair, only a quiet understanding of consequences. With Mr. Zhao's unwavering financial backing and the public firmly on our side, my original modular housing project, now proudly renamed Peterson Eco Homes, launched with astonishing success. The inaugural community, a vibrant testament to sustainable living, was unveiled to a chorus of praise. Families, beaming with excitement, explored their innovative, environmentally friendly homes. Chloe stood beside me, her eyes shining with shared triumph. I surveyed the scene, my heart swelling. My once ridiculed, crazy idea was no longer a pipe dream. It was a reality, a blueprint for a better future. I looked up at the main community building,
the name Peterson Eco Homes gleaming in the afternoon sun. It was more than just a name. It was a legacy. The success of Peterson Eco Homes was undeniable, far exceeding our wildest projections. This triggered the revolutionizing clause in my children's trust funds. James, his assets depleted and career shattered, now owed me a substantial percentage of his past earnings, a devastating financial blow. Emily, whose 11th-hour assistance had softened my stance, faced a less severe, yet still significant financial consequence. The full legal and financial implications of the clause became public knowledge, adding another layer of complexity to the story. During a press conference, I spoke calmly, without malice. My goal was never retribution, but creation, to build something meaningful. Sometimes people, unwittingly, pave their own difficult paths.
Months later, I stood overlooking a new Peterson Eco Homes community, thriving and expanding across the nation. I was content, surrounded by Chloe, my brilliant partner, and Clara, whose silent support had finally blossomed into open admiration. The journey had been arduous, marked by humiliation and betrayal, but culminating in profound vindication. A quiet message arrived from Emily. Not an explicit apology, but a heartfelt thank you for, as she put it, showing me what true integrity looks like. My revenge wasn't cruel. It was a dignified reclamation of my vision, a testament to the power of unwavering belief. I hadn't just built houses, I had built a legacy. My once mocked crazy idea now funded not only my own dreams, but, ironically, the restructured lives of the very children who had laughed at me, albeit with a humbling newfound respect for their old man's unwavering spirit.